Craig,
Craig, that's it.
thank you very much for allowing me in your studio.
Mate, absolute pleasure. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, no, this is awesome. We went back and forth a little bit, and I'm glad the wait was worthwhile because this is awesome. So, thank you very much for that. Podcast journey. I had a look on your YouTube.
Yeah, there's some old videos back there.
It goes right back. I'm able to sort from, oldest to newest, popular, etc. They go back. I think it was like 8 years or so.
Yeah, that's about
approximately.
right. Yeah.
How did it all start?
I was selling real estate, and it was right back, and it's one of those moments to kick myself for not like doubling down on it harder back then. It was like, it's probably like a lot of people with like Bitcoin. Like I skimmed the surface and like did bits of it to help just promote myself as a selling agent back then, but never like went hard enough at it up until we started the buyer's agency.
Yeah.
And now I've sort of gone hard into it, but like now along with 5,000 million other
people out there.
But back then, like I would have had like almost free run if I'd gone serious.
100%. Especially, getting behind the camera is far less accessible back.
Yeah.
Or a lot more post editing and.
Yeah, just there wasn't many people putting out like financial content 10 years ago at all.
Yeah.
There's some people now with like huge followings that started at the same point in time but just went all in a lot earlier. So that's all right. We live with that. Live with those lessons.
That's all right. It's still upwards from here. So previously recording and everything was done at your house or?
Yeah, so before we actually built out this studio, there's actually like studios like this that you can hire out across Australia. It's like $150. They'll let you in there with all their gear, hit record and walk away. And that's what we were doing up until we did this fit out just recently, which now we've got a bit more access to it, which is good.
Yeah. That's awesome. And it's always been a finance property sort of podcast or?
Yeah. So always been in that real estate space. So we've been investing I bought my first property back 2010.
Yeah.
So a little while ago now, and it was always sort of just helping people on that journey and talking about our journey in the hopes that sort of, a bit of inspiration and a bit of guidance.
Yep. From Cairns originally? Or?
No. Originally Phillip Island, Victoria.
Phillip Island.
But been up here since 2008. So
you're one of the early movers, not the
not the COVID generation.
COVID generation. I think I'm in that boat. What was the reason for the move up here?
Quick one before we get into the episode. This episode is sponsored by Exert Fitness. I actually know the boys behind Exert, Ben and Isaac, and I'm excited to partner with them because they genuinely live and breathe discipline and consistency. They are two normal Aussie blokes who decided they wanted more from themselves, became extremely disciplined and consistent, and completely transformed the way they live and operate. These days, they are taking on wild endurance and ultra events, and they're all in on building the brand properly. They train hard, live it every day, and the brand reflects that. Their gear is elite, super comfy, great quality, and built for everything from everyday wear through to ultra events. Use code PROTOCOL15 for 15% off. That's PROTOCOL15. Link to their store and socials is in the show notes.
Literally was chasing a girl all the way back there, and now two kids and a life later, here we are.
Yeah. Is your wife?
Yes, yep.
She's from Cairns?
She's one of the few born and bred.
True. Yes, that is true. There's not many of them around.
Amazing how versatile the population is. Everyone's from somewhere else.
Somewhere down south. And 2 children.
Yep, 2 kids.
Yep. Has real estate, you always been in real estate?
No. So I actually went to uni to study town planning of all things.
Yep.
And I've got 6 months left on that degree that will never get finished. But yeah, got near the pointy end of it, and then got into real estate and went, there's probably more money and more excitement to be made here, and that was that.
You moved. So that was what you were doing when you got to.
Yeah. So moved to Cairns, then ended up going to JCU.
Yep.
And that was really sort of got into the town planning, and that sort of opened my eyes to real estate, and then from there sort of got into real estate way too quickly that I ended up pulling the pin on the uni degree. Yeah.
That's okay. It's obviously worked out okay.
Did all right.
You're still in the industry.
Did all right.
The Buyers Co. You've got the Buyers Co shirt on at the moment. How How long's the Buyers Co been around, or has it
Yeah,
evolved
so it's
from
actually
previous
a
business?
new endeavour. So we launched it in September, but basically off the back of being in the real estate industry for a bit over a decade, and just seemed right place, right time, and felt that we had a lot of value to bring to the marketplace. So it's sort of, we launched straight into it and hit the ground
It's a
running.
buyer's agency.
Yep. So purely helping people buy real estate. So we do a lot of owner-occupier stuff. So a lot of people relocating to Cairns or even locals looking to buy it. And then a lot of investment stuff. So people looking at buying their first investment property, second or third property.
Is a buyer's agency is more prevalent in areas that are a bit more transient, such as Cairns, or?
I think there's two major clientele, I guess, for buyers agents, and that's either your owner occupiers and people wanting help finding that perfect home, and then there's people looking for investment properties. So when people are looking for the perfect home, depending on what they're looking for, they come to us for that little bit of an inside run and a little bit of assistance. Or investment properties, people don't even really know where to start a lot of the time. So that's when we're working out fully detailed plans of, okay, you're here today, this is where you want to get to.
Yeah.
These are the assets we need to buy over the next 5-10 years to actually get you to where you want to be.
Buyers agencies, are they percentage fees, or is it?
So typically it's a flat fee. Most of the buyers agencies across Australia will operate on a flat fee.
Yep.
Reason being is we're trying to get clients the best possible deal and the cheapest deal, so it doesn't really make sense to then charge a commission to then the incentives are inverse, I guess.
I will dive into the property market a little bit further, but there was another thing when I was doing the research. There's a business sale in there somewhere.
Yeah, correct.
And I don't know. I deliberately didn't do too much more research other than that. It was just it was a thumbnail. I think it's a business sale. What was that related
So
to?
before we launched the Buyers Co, we actually run an Airbnb management business. So we built that up over, it was super short-lived. We were in it for 18 months and built it from 0 to 40 managements, which 40 managements doesn't sound huge, but essentially 40 Airbnb managements is a whole lot of work. And we ended up selling that for just over 700,000 18 months after launching it. So quick in and out. Wow. Built it quick and managed to get out of that sort of well ahead. So that was
unbelievable. So that you're effectively just managing the logistics of bookings, cleanings, repairs, restocking, etc.
All of that jazz, which was one of those things that on managing one or two, which is what we started off doing, doesn't feel like that much work. But then when it's scaled to 40 and you're working 7 days a week, pretty much on call 24/7, it got to a point that we either needed to employ a whole lot of people and make less money for maybe 2-3 years, or cash out. And that's where we ended up selling out. And the company that we sold to already had about 200 managements here in Cairns. So it made sense for them to fold that business into their business and just basically kept their business very profitable by adding those properties. Where we would have went through basically a massive dip to employ people to grow to that next stage. We would have had to go backwards for a long time before we could then go forwards again.
It's not necessarily a business that it's I can't really automate cleaning.
No,
there's not a lot of automation there to an extent. So it's you just need man hours.
The amount of calls that we used to get just at 9 o'clock at night because someone couldn't work out the internet or couldn't work out the stove, and it's just the isolation switch on the splash back hadn't been turned on, or people seem to forget their brains when they go on holidays, and that that certainly drove a lot of the workload.
So it was just yourself and
me and the wife, and then we had a team of about 10 housekeepers. So we had a heap of housekeeping staff, and they were brilliant. But the actual trying to get someone, it was hard to even staff it, because some nights you'd have nothing going on, and then other nights you'd be working from 6 p.m. to midnight. And to try and work out how to actually pay that and reward that, it was very hard to sort of work out that staffing arrangement at that scale.
You would need more than 100% of your workforce workforce at times.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, correct.
Or it's just time.
Yeah, or they're sitting around doing nothing for 6 hours because there's nothing going on. And that's, the ebbs and flows of it all, I guess.
Yeah. How do you grow from 2 to 40 properties? I mean, how do you get that many properties on the books?
We were fortunate because I had been selling real estate for so long. We had the agent relationships, and as soon as I wasn't competing with those agents, they were pretty happy to send us the business, because most real estate agencies will have a long-term property management business and they'll have a sales business, but very few actually service short-term rentals. It's just a lot of work involved, a whole different skill set. It's got nothing to do with sales or long-term rentals. It's just its own field.
Yeah.
So as soon as we had a product that fit them, that they could refer to their clients, that wasn't in competition, we were able to sort of pick up a lot of that workflow. So that's sort of, that reputation and those referrals really helped.
Yeah. And I guess growing a business when you go from 2 to 40, the logistics and the growth pains that you went through, I guess it just got exponentially worse as you...
We were constantly, we grew from the 0 to 10, and then we hit pause at 10 for a moment in time, got our systems, got our processes, got everything functioning again, and then we'd grow another 10 and same thing, hit that pause, figure it out, and it always was this never-ending learning curve of okay, how do we scale? And that's when we got to that 40, we realised the only way to scale past that point was to put on a whole lot of staff, but then that was going to come at basically destroying our profit margins until we got to maybe 100, 120, and then we'd be starting to make similar money again.
Yep. Was selling always the plan?
No. Never. Nah. We set it up. We set it up in order to be able to sell it one day, and I do think that's probably an important takeaway, is if you are going to build something, build it on a foundation that you keep all your options open. Yeah. So, and quite often that's not the cheapest way to do things as well. So we could have set it up as a sole trader and it would have saved us a heap on accounting, but we ended up setting it up as a proprietary limited company, owned by a trust, owned by another company. And at the time that felt like complete overkill, but come time to sell, it made a huge difference in the taxation and everything, having that flexibility.
Yeah. I've not been in that position before, but my understanding is, a business goes from sole trader, can sometimes even be a hobby, into this is a bit more serious, into, now we've got 20, 30, 40, units, properties, whatever that actual service is.
And then you sort of get stuck to, if you build stuff out as a sole trader, you end up in this weird position where you got to sell the assets to the company, and it can get really messy and hard to rewind if you don't get that initial structure right.
Yeah, that is complex, especially if you don't, coming from the property industry, you potentially have a bit more of an understanding of your trust and company structure. But
it was interesting and sort of topical right now with you see all the memes of the 40% going to elbow doing the rounds. But when we went to sell that business, we actually structured the deal to sell the assets of the business and not the actual business itself. So the original deal was we'd shut down the hosting co, which was our Airbnb business, and the company buying it would buy the management rights to the properties we were managing. And that made sense and it seemed logical. Ended up speaking to my accountant and he was like, no, do not do it that way. And we're like, oh, why? By selling the shares in the business, we got the capital gains tax discount, which is what everyone's up in arms about at the moment because it's changing. So under the current legislation, current way taxation's done, because we owned the shares in the business for longer than 12 months, we got the 50% capital gains discount, which was fantastic, saved us 50% of our tax bill. And then because it was a small business and classed as an active business, we got a further 50% discount as an active asset discount. So on the sale, we dodged 50% of the tax because it was an active, because we'd owned the shares, where if we'd been a sole trader, we wouldn't have got that.
Yep.
And then we got a further 50% discount on the sale as well because it was an active asset. So essentially the tax payable was basically 25% of the business sale.
Yep.
Got put on top of our income. So it ended up being a 10% tax in real terms.
Wow.
So there's some crazy incentives there for businesses that are structured right, but those incentives are getting taken away slowly, and that's where I think a lot of those people are up in arms because it has been lucrative to build and sell businesses, but you start removing some of those incentives, and that's where all the memes come from.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on it? I mean, on the surface, without having a real understanding of the budget, I know you've done previous podcasts on it as well, which are worth watching, but on the surface, to disincentivise growth or building companies and businesses?
At the end of the day, like, the vast majority of Australia is run on small businesses, like plumbers, sparkies, builders, like all of it's run on small businesses.
Yep.
So I think to like remove some of those incentives is a cash grab more than anything. But I think the annoying thing for me is how it's been dressed up. It's like intergenerational equity where helping the younger generation because the older generation's too wealthy. But the older generation got to their position of wealth through those tax advantages, through those systems.
Yep.
And they haven't put anything in place to benefit the younger generation. They're just taking away from the older generation. So, and it's not even the older generation, it's just those willing to have a crack and have a go are now getting penalised. And it's a cash grab on its like there's no merit to any of the arguments. Is the thing I guess that frustrates me.
Yeah, I agree. It's any disincentivizing anything that's growth related.
Yeah,
can only be really seen as a cash grab.
And
in my view,
it's even just all the framing. Like it started off by like we're going to make housing more affordable, and that was what started it. But then suddenly you turned around and they're taxing shares, crypto, businesses all the same. It's like, well, hold on, how does that benefit property in any way, shape or form? Like, let's be honest, it doesn't. It's a cash grab.
Yeah. I guess just back to the business side of things is what lessons do you get from a business in that sense? Because you've obviously got a new business, the Buyers Co.
Yep.
Not a same industry, but
same but different.
Different field, but like what lessons are you taking out of?
It was interesting. So we went from having the Airbnb management business. The company that bought that business from us, I ended up working for a year. And it was just interesting to learn how they overcome some of those scales issues. But also, that was the first time I'd actually been involved in a big business. And very quickly, it was like evident what I would do differently. So like there was lessons and restraints from when we like were trying to work out how to scale, went to the big business and saw some of the solutions to those problems, but also the challenges that come with big business in moving fast. So like when we launched our latest business, we're able to move fast with everything. We're able to trial and error, pivot, change course, like work out things really quick. And that's sometimes looking at a big business, you go, man, the wheels are so slow to turn, and like the ability to trial and error things is very hard as the business gets bigger. So
it's just too much bureaucracy to make a decision.
Correct. And that's, I think that end of the day, there is that sweet spot for people building businesses where you get highly profitable, but keep the scale at a certain level. It's that sweet balancing act, I guess.
You can see why they somewhat cap out or get to a point and just sit at that.
Correct. And it's often like I say, with our Airbnb business, we were very profitable at 40 management. So there was a lot of fat in that business.
Yeah.
But by the time you employed someone to be on call at night, to cover Saturday, Sundays, to replace me and my wife would have taken 4 staff. So, you're suddenly paying 4 people to do the job that just me and her were doing. And that starts to eat into those profit margins, and suddenly you need to pretty much 3x the business to be at the same profitability when it was just me and her managing 40 properties.
Yep. So the Buyers Co. Same challenges, or it's fairly different. Not as many man hours in terms of the doing of the actual.
More structured. So like no one's calling me at 9 p.m. at night. Or we do the occasional deal at like 7, 8 o'clock at night, but it's it's like in our control and it's predictable. So like with the Airbnb business, it was very unpredictable when the toaster would break or when something would go wrong. Where with this, we know what deals we're currently negotiating. We know what calls we need to make. It's very, very predictable work, I think, and that's it makes it a lot more. It's a lot more enjoyable on a whole lot of fronts, and be a lot more easy to scale because we know what hours need to be worked. We know what needs to get done, and even like to allocate parts of it is a whole lot easier. But with that all said, we're pretty content we know what we want and what we don't want these days, and at the same time we're pretty content to keep it at a level that me and my wife can comfortably manage it all and offer a high level of customer service without growing a beast. So that's sort of I think we'll stay at this level for certainly the foreseeable future.
Yep. Are you only advocating for properties in Cairns?
Yeah. So it was interesting. When we first launched, we thought we may have to have a national approach just to get enough clientele to make it feasible and financial. Very quickly, we realised there was more than enough buyer demand in Cairns. With our network and so on and so forth, we could certainly make a business out of just Cairns. Yep. And that comes with a whole heap of advantages as well. So like when you're trying to navigate every market, you don't know who the selling agents are. You don't know the pockets and areas. It becomes very hard to do it well across the country. Yeah. We're focusing just on one market. We know all the players in the game. We know all the selling agents. We know every street of Cairns. There's not too many pockets we haven't driven down 30, 40 times. So that makes it very easy to quickly eliminate properties that are duds and know when we're dealing with agents who we can take as gospel and who we need to just,
a bit more homework.
Trust our own research on, I guess.
Yeah. So it's just you and your wife. The Cairns property market. So I'm 4 or 5 years up here.
Yeah, nice.
We have been lucky enough to buy a home up here, but it's a
congratulations.
Thank you. It's a interesting market compared to the rest of Australia. Seems to have obviously there are supply issues all over Australia.
Yeah,
but it seems even more so in Cairns. Would that be fair?
It's a couple of things really restricting Cairns at the moment. The first one's geography. So you've got our mountain ranges running across. If you look at like the northern beaches of Cairns, there's no more room there to build any more houses. Like it's pretty much all been built out or is fully floodplains and needs to be built up massively, or it's rainforest, and they're not going to let you touch the rainforest to build up the land to actually make it habitable, and the floodplains there is just way too expensive. So the northern side of Cairns is completely built out. That's done. There'll be some unit developments into the future, but as far as freestanding houses, super restricted. So when it comes to real estate, it's always supply and demand. So supply is super limited. There's always going to be big demand for the beaches. So I think the beaches market's a market we're just going to see go from strength to strength.
Yep.
Then the southern corridor, really the only growth spot is between Gordonvale and Edmonton, so Mount Peter there.
Yep.
And the council haven't actually kept up with the infrastructure. So there's basically 20,000 approved lots for that area, but the council doesn't currently have the sewage or water infrastructure to allow those 20,000 lots to actually get built on.
Right.
So, government, once again, you talk about affordable housing, they haven't done the planning and the actual infrastructure investment to support that further development in Cairns. So that becomes like a somewhat artificial limit of supply because we just haven't actually built the infrastructure to support it.
Yeah. Which is likely at least years.
Yeah, correct. You don't create extra sewer and extra water out of thin air like it. Yeah, it's going to take a long time for that bottleneck to be released.
Yeah. And then I guess Cairns compared to, it's not really comparable, but places like Sydney, Melbourne, which are the probably the most popular property markets in Gold Coast as well. It's probably in there. Just comparing, I guess, the two, because there's a lot of doom and gloom in the market at the moment.
Yep. 100%.
And there's lots of talk around, price reduction and house pricing going
Yep.
down and whatnot. How does the push and pull, or how do you see the push and pull of that? Because I don't in Cairns, I can't see how it could really go down.
Yep.
When there is such a supply issue.
Correct.
Compared to those markets as well.
So it's interesting. Market sentiment's always such a big driver. So like what people feel the market will do is often the bigger driver than absolutely anything. And that's what, I think we will see that over the next moment in time. People will be a little bit cautious of taking action, where the reality is that the government's still looking at bringing 2 million people into the country over the next 10 years or so. Like, it's insane that the level of immigration at the moment, those people need somewhere to live. If they spread out, depending on where they spread out, that's going to put a lot of upwards pressure on prices. Yep. Rentals, Cairns has a big market of rental properties. I think it's about 40% of our homes are rentals here in Cairns. That's not going to change. So, it wouldn't matter if prices were, I often find myself getting into debates on this. Back in 2013, 2014, you could buy a home in Cairns for 300,000. Dime a dozen, 300,000. Now those same homes are worth 800,000, but we're still seeing the same demographics buy at 800,000 as we were at 300, and we're still seeing the same demographics rent when they were 300 versus 800. So yes, they've become more expensive, but there's still the same rental pool there. That it's not like there's more people renting now than there was when they were worth 300. Like it hasn't really changed that much, which creates an interesting dynamic, I guess. And now that they're de-incentivizing investors into the property market, it'll be very interesting to see where rents go, because I think it'll be a hell of a lot more than the $2 a week that they're forecasting.
True. You think rents will increase?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Just the pool of rentals, the pool of people renting isn't going to disappear because prices pull back slightly.
Yeah.
And it's like that old sort of, I always ask when people talk affordable property, at what price point's property affordable? Like, if it's worth 800 today and it goes to 700, is that affordable?
Yeah. Does it add that many more buyers to the market?
No, not really. Like I say, those people were still sitting on the sidelines at 300,000, and I think if the market was to drop in half, which there's no world where it could, but like if suddenly it went back to 400, people would be like, "Oh no, property's screwed. They're not going to be a buyer at 400 anyway." Like
they want to wait until it starts.
Wait to 200.
What's your property strategy, property buying and selling strategy? Do you just buy and then roll the capital into additional properties, or do you sell often?
No, so we've owned, I believe it's 15 properties throughout our journey. Yep. Maybe it's 13. It's either 13 or 15 that we've owned.
Yep.
But we've only ever sold 3. So I think that's right. Around that. But so we've never been big on selling.
Yep.
Couple of things on that. I think, by the time even when on the way in, so when you're purchasing, you're paying 3% stamp duty on investment. So if you're buying something worth 500,000, you're paying 15 grand in stamp duty. And then if you look at selling, you're paying an agent to sell it, you're paying the marketing on selling it, you're paying then the tax to sell. That, for me, it's always made more sense to hold on to, refinance out the equity, and then buy again.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, if you're holding real estate over a long period of time, that's where you start building real wealth.
Yeah. And then will you just roll interest-only loans?
So we've been principal and interest forever, which goes against like a lot of investment gurus, and a lot of people like heavily promote interest only. And for us, there's been a couple of reasons we've been principal and interest. Firstly, for me, it gave us a default retirement in 30 years. 30 years time, all the properties are paid off. There's no debt. We're Gucci. And that gave me a whole lot of peace of mind that, like, regardless of what happens in the market, if it goes up, if it goes down, if our property that's worth 800,000 ends up being worth 600,000, if it slowly gets paid off in 30 years' time, it's somewhat irrelevant, might come across wrong here, but like if it's worth 600, 800 or 1.2 million when it's all paid off, we've got an asset generating income that's paying us in retirement. So
that makes sense. I think having that as a default is not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah.
It just potentially ties up capital. But
Yeah. Ties up capital, but also a way of like forced savings. It forces you to pay it down. We're also in a position where our primary place of residence is paid off, so there's no like, we're not trying to pay down non-tax tax deductible debt. All our debt is tax deductible at this point in time, which also changes the game.
Yeah, that makes sense. Bad property investments. What are bad property investments? Obviously overpaying.
Yeah.
But things you're looking for, it probably really is what are the good things or what are the actual flaws that you're looking for in.
So I think when it comes to like bad investments, the biggest mistakes I see is when people don't actually spend the time to do the research. And one of the easiest ways to do the research is if you are looking to buy in a market, force yourself to go to 50 open homes, record what the asking price was on those properties and what they ended up selling for. And that exercise alone of going and physically walking through 50 properties, physically noting in a diary, on your phone, in notes, whatever, what they actually sell for, will teach you so much in the market that after inspecting 50, you will not buy a shit buy. You will like understand what a good buy is in the market.
Yeah.
And that's probably like the easiest way anyone can really sort of, upskill and make sure what they're buying, they've got confidence in buying.
Yeah. Do you, I suspect the answer is no to this. Do you deal with first home buyers very often or at all?
Surprisingly a lot. Like maybe 1 in 10, 1 in 5. A big chunk of our business is helping first home buyers.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that is confidence that what they're buying is a good asset. So, they've saved up, they might have saved up for 5-6 years for their deposit. And that first asset can actually make or break your whole journey. Like if you buy wrong and end up in $100,000 hole, like that is such a challenge. The other way I think about that as well is it is bloody hard to save $100,000. Like no matter what income you're on, even if you're on $200,000 a year, by the time the tax man puts his hand out for the 47%, to save $100,000 is bloody hard. Where to make $100,000 through a reno, to make $100,000 through buying well and holding on for 2-3 years isn't that difficult. So that's where, like, if you're in a position to buy your first home, if you're willing to look at that first property as a stepping stone and not a final destination, you can make $100,000 within a pretty short period of time. And that can honestly set you up for life once you roll that $100,000 into the next deal. That snowball effect and that compounding of capital is insane compared to actually trying to save your way there.
That's a great point. I think there's a big misnomer or just a lack of understanding. I suppose first home buyers, myself having been in that position as well, about the compounding and also being able to use that equity in the future. There seems to be an emotional attachment to that first property. It's like, I just want to get in. I want this to be a perfect house. Would you, like I see now in hindsight, potentially buying a unit or something far smaller in a good area, or that would be considered a good buy, a far greater stepping stone than.
So like we were literally earlier today at a property that had been trashed by the tenant. So it was an apartment, 2-bed, 2-bath. That you could probably pick up for like $370, $380. It was livable as it was. Like the kitchen needed new bench tops. There was several holes in the gyp rock. It probably needed somewhere between 20 to 30 grand spent on it. But if you bought that for $380, you spent your 20, 30 grand renoing it. You're not paying stamp duty because it's your first home. You're in it for $420 in a fully renovated property that's probably worth $480. So like talking like a month reno, if that, Do the painting yourself. Learn to plaster yourself. It's not real hard. Just get on the sander and work it out.
There'll be a YouTube video out there.
100%. Few YouTube videos. But like that deal, you could be in it for 420, make the best bit of 50, 60 grand out of it. Like, once again, how hard is it to save 50, 60 grand versus, a month's work, have that 50, 60 grand. You can then finance out that 50, 60 grand profit to roll into the next investment property. And that's, I think, where first home buyers, if they're clever, if they're strategic about it, regardless of what the market's doing, property is a pretty good vehicle for that sort of thing.
Yeah. There's definitely the initial investment into buying I found it extremely stressful.
Yeah. But you take that property at like 400,000, for example. You got the 5% deposit scheme, so essentially you need to save 20 grand.
Yep.
20 grand, you can get yourself into that.
Yep.
The renos aren't urgent, so maybe it takes you a year to do the renos. You chip away at it, you live with some holes in the walls, you live in something that's not overly desirable for 12 months while you save and chip away at the renos.
Yep.
But then you got yourself in this position where you've got this capital then to go and buy another one.
Yeah. And you said this earlier, that you see that as a big stepping stone and to target. Would you say to target a cheaper, like to look for something that's cheaper? Or if it's a good buy, it's a good buy?
I think if it's a good buy, it's a good buy. But I think this is where people need to get clear on what they want. So like, are you buying that first property as a stepping stone and like financially to set yourself up? Because property's a bloody good asset for doing that.
Yep.
Or is this first property where you want to have your 2 kids and like you're thinking more long term and it's not a financial vehicle? And that's, I think, you got to get clear on, am I buying this as a home, which then that's a whole lot of different goals and settings, or am I buying this as a financial vehicle to better myself financially?
Yeah.
And the two are exclusive a lot of the times. It's very rare that those two overlap.
Yeah. Rentvesting?
Rentvesting, love it.
Love it?
Love it. Especially rentvesting if you're in a market with an unaffordable price tag. So if you're living and love living in Bondi Beach, you're not buying in Bondi Beach as a first home buyer. If you're living in Sydney, if you're living even Brisbane, Gold Coast at the moment, to be in any area that's livable of Brisbane and Gold Coast, you're needing pretty deep pockets. Yeah. And that's where buying something in a market with good yields, that you can take all of that stuff that I just said. There's no reason why you can't come up to Cairns and do a reno for a month, buy something, do a reno, manufacture some equity, move back down, continue renting where you want to live, and then have that asset renting out. I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. The rental market in Cairns compared to other places, it seems to be much higher.
It's an insane market up here for rent.
It's insane.
Insane. You look at Cairns versus Melbourne, for example. So like Melbourne, you could be 10 k's from the CBD renting a 4-bed, 2-bath house for like $450 a week, versus that same property in Cairns is like $800.
Yeah.
It's
crazy.
But I think that comes back to the percentage of people that actually rent in Cairns. It's one of the highest cities in Australia for rentals.
Yeah.
There's a big rental population here.
Yeah.
Part of that comes from a bit of a transient workforce. We meet a lot of teachers, a lot of medical workers that are here on 12-month contracts.
Yeah.
So I think they make up a big part of the rental market. Lot of people that are here for one reason or another, and they're just looking for a rental property for that point in time.
Yeah.
And that really drives up the rental prices. And like I say, this latest lot of budget changes isn't going to make more rental properties come to the market. It's only going to drive those rental yields up higher.
Yeah. Do you think investors will just stay in the market with the new budget?
I think there's a number of things that don't make a whole lot of logical sense. So like they've grandfathered the negative gearing. So if anyone has a property and it is negatively geared, you're not going to be selling that. You will hold on to those tax advantages.
Yes, I didn't see that.
They've also, the current 50% capital gains discount is in place for a whole nother year. And then it's only the growth past that year that then moves to the new system. So if you've got a whole lot of growth in a property, you're going to sit on it as well. So I think there's a lot of a lot of the levers they've pulled is actually going to restrict supply. So people are more likely to hold on to their properties for a longer period of time. Even how you look at this, going down the rabbit hole a fair bit here, but the new way they're going to calculate capital gains discount is based on indexation of inflation. So if inflation's at 3% one year, 4% the next, the longer you hold on to a property, the bigger discount you get. So it's going to encourage people to hold longer rather than transition properties quickly, where the current model of capital gains discount encourages people to sell after 12 months. Where the new model, the longer you hold on for, the bigger discount you get. So it's an interesting counter-logical pathway they've chosen to go down.
Are the CGT changes, will they be, if you've had a property previous to that, they are intending to roll them in at 1 July 27?
Yep.
Will capital gains be calculated at that point, and then the gains from 1 July 27 would
fall under the new system?
Under the new system.
So say you bought a property for 500,000.
Yep.
It's worth $1 million 1st of July 2027. Mm-hmm. That $500,000 gain will fall under the 50% capital gains discount.
Yep.
Then any growth that happens from the 1st of July 2027, so everyone will be getting valuations on their properties from that 1st of July.
Yep.
Any growth that then goes on forward will be discounted based on inflation. So if inflation stays between 2 to 3%, the target inflation rate, you'll get a 2 to 3% discount on that growth.
Okay. So they'll calculate it at that point in time.
Yeah, correct.
So watch out for the influx of property valuations.
Yeah, a whole lot of valuations at that point in time, just so people can basically put a marker where the growth was.
Where it was, yeah.
But the new system, if you're holding an asset for 50 years, you might actually be better off under that new system than the old system. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
We briefly touched on this before, the doom around the property market. A couple of the guys that I listened to, like Matt Barrie and Chris Joye, up there in the political, finance, economic space, talk about it. But generally they seem to be talking about the capital cities and that sort of area. Would that be fair? Or do you see a world where those capital cities do decrease or stagnate?
It's really hard when you talking about the Australian property market is sort of the equivalent of talking about like the Australian stock exchange as a whole. You've got markets in markets. So like the Cairns market's going to operate nothing like the Sydney market. But even inside the Cairns market, the Northern Beaches is going to operate different to Nat Peter. So it is very much isolated. And there's different drivers on that too. Like if you've got a suburb of Sydney, say like Bondi once again, like with a median price of $3 million, interest rate rises do drastic things at a $3 million loan. So like that market's going to be much more driven by the changes in interest rates than say like a market like Cairns. But then there's also supply fundamentals, population fundamentals. There's a lot of moving parts to the property market, but as soon as you put a blanket over the whole of Australia, you're never going to be correct in any commentary.
That's fair. Do you, like, in terms of other investment vehicles, shares, managed funds, crypto, etc., or like, do you?
I think I'd be a financial planner's worst nightmare. I think I'd keep them up at night. We have a portfolio that I would recommend no one to copy.
This is not financial.
This is not financial advice.
This is the opposite of that.
We have the most undiversified portfolio between owning a business that's like directly related to the Cairns property market and then having all of our properties in the Cairns property market. All of the eggs are well and truly in one basket. And the problem lies every time I've ever looked at buying elsewhere, a deal that's just too good comes across our lap. Great example, like where we're sitting right now, we're sitting in a shed that I bought in my super. We bought this for $310,000. It's literally worth 420, and that's like a month after settlement. So we're like $100,000 in the green on this within like a couple of months. There's no other market where we get those opportunities. And that's just, we've been selling real estate and buying real estate in Cairns for so long now that agents reach out to us every day agents are calling us with different deals. The renovator I talked about that we went through today was a great example of that. Like that's off market. We'll do a deal on that before anyone else even gets a look in on it.
Yeah.
And every time we go to buy somewhere else, we get ourselves in a position to buy something just like silver platter to us, and it's like, well, there's too much buffer in like some of the good deals that we get up here that to try and find that in another market, we just don't have the contacts, and it's pretty hard to ignore.
I sort of have the philosophy of I just to put the amount of time. You could put time towards so many things. Like the share market takes considerable time, unless you go. Obviously, there's managed funds, or you can go your stock standard shares, which will grow over time as well for the most part. But I guess when you've got so much research on this market,
correct.
It's a unique market. It makes sense to remain. So.
Know it intimately, and just the deals that we get presented are just makes it very hard to see value in something else when you can buy something and have such equity uplift straight away on it. It's pretty hard to ignore.
For the most part, are you off, or like is it 50-50 off market / on market, or
probably 60-40? So like majority of our deals are off market, but we still buy a heap of stuff that's advertised online as well. So it's a bit of both.
Yeah.
Where I think we do a whole lot of off-market deals is agents don't really want to put their name against stuff that's presented really shit.
Okay.
So like, for instance,
that's
if it's
better for you.
correct. So like, if it's a hoarder's house, for instance, and it's like, there's a lot of agents in Cairns that have built quite prestige brands. They've, properties that they bring to market are all staged. They're presented really well. They get top dollar because of that. They don't want to then bring something that's just unappealing, holes in the wall, that looks absolutely crap, because it does devalue their own personal brand.
Okay.
But they're also getting paid to sell stuff like that. So they will promote it, but they just won't advertise it as heavily. They'll reach out to the network, find a builder, find a buyer's agent, find someone to do the deal for those style of properties.
Yeah.
And those properties as well, people are typically selling them for a reason. So like maybe they've got medical issues, maybe they're in financial hardship. Typically they're looking for a quick sale just to move it on, not so much chasing that extra $10,000 or $15,000.
Okay. I was going to say, why would you sell off market in a market like this?
Yeah, 100%. And I think the big thing there is certainty. So like it's a bird in the hand, two in the bush. And a lot of people, if they can get a price that they're happy with, and especially the way the market's risen. So a lot of people they might have bought it for 400, it's now selling for 800. They're 400 grand in the clear. If they were to get 820, an extra 20 grand for it, does it change things that much for them, or do they take the 400,000 profit with a high level of certainty and be done with it?
Yeah.
And that's where I think people sometimes aren't looking to nickel and dime once they've already made a big profit margin.
Yeah, true. They just want to get rid of it.
Yeah.
In terms of like politics, government sort of side of things, probably more so like national debt and state debt. Is that something that you look at, or you obviously have a look at the budgets and that sort of stuff, which is relevant to you?
I think debt is a scary word for a lot of people. And I think people associate debt with credit card debt or like personal home debt. But debt, if managed right, is something that you actually never need to pay off. Like I know I mentioned earlier that we're on principal and interest and we'll pay it off. But the way inflation sits, so the RBA, Reserve Bank of Australia's basically policy is to have inflation sitting between 2 to 3%. So that's not some conspiracy theory. It's just inflation will sit between 2 to 3%. That's their mandate. That's what they're trying to achieve.
Yep.
But the flip side of that is the policy is to devalue the currency by 2 to 3% a year. So what $100 buys this year, their policy is that you'll need $103 next year to buy that same thing.
Yep.
The year after, you'll need $106. So if you've got debt, that $100 worth of debt today in 20 years' time is really only the equivalent of having $50 worth of debt. So that's where I think if the government stops growing their debt, just lets inflation eat away at the debt, in 20 years' time, the debt's halved in value even if they don't pay it off.
Yeah, gotcha.
So yeah, it's an interesting one.
It is an interesting one. It gets a lot of bad press, and I guess it's probably more so associated to some of the spending that gets reported.
It's pretty hard to watch the spending when it's like the level of waste. I think that's the 100%. Frustrating bit is like the waste that goes on.
NDIS.
Correct.
Some of the offshore things that get spent on for sure.
Exactly right.
I don't have too much else, mate. I appreciate you taking time out of your day,
mate. Been an absolute pleasure.
You're clearly very knowledgeable specifically in the Cairns market, but also the Australian one as well. So, thank you very much for your time. We might be able to do it again in the future.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks for coming on. Cheers.
Thanks,